I've been doing this thing for more than 2 decades, and I've been spending my time with corporations. It's only been in the last 2 or 3 years, so this is the way it's sort of a reflection. It's only been in the last 2 or 3 years that I've spent some time working on the youth. I've run surveys with Tony. I've done some scholarly work. For example, I've done published a journal article on the tent, buying something among the youth. And that started me thinking about how important the youth are. Now, I'm going to go into CSR 1, 2, and 3 in a few minutes, but the first thing I'm going to say is, if I am successful, CSR will end at 3.0. Because the youth have better things to do than to go into corporations. Some of you will be doctors, some of you will be politicians, some of you will be policemen. It would be a sad thing if all of you ended up joining the corporate world. So I think you are here to mold the new, we'll drop the word C, the new social responsibility. Not only for corporations, but for other parts of this country in order to make it good and great again. Sounds like a political speech, but the point here, there are 2 points here. One is that it's important for you to build your own notion of social responsibility. I'm sure the people here, Greg, myself, we are in our comfort zone when it comes to corporate social responsibility. We have our programs, we plant trees, we do community work. What we need is a new, fresh perspective on what social responsibility will be like. And before you get brainwashed by the corporate programs, because once you're in a corporation, they will have their programs of CSR all laid out for you. And of course, you're going to follow them because they're not bad programs. But they're not innovative. They're not the things that the youth seem to be concerned about. Tony has run some surveys. I think we're talking about 3,200 respondents. And many of them are looking at things like the environment and sustainability much more than corporations are. Many of them are looking at community work and volunteerism. So I think there are some fresh ways of looking at old ideas, is what I'm saying. So I think the 2 important things that I'm going to say right now, and then I'm going to go into the longer version, is one, I think what we're saying now is we went from 1, 2, and 3, and maybe now we're going full circle back to the youth. From philanthropy to corporate social responsibility to creating shared value. And now I think it's up to the youth to do something else. And maybe 5 years from now, we'll be calling it something different. Maybe we'll be calling it responsibility and governance, for example. But it should be interesting because as an academician, I'm very excited about where we're going. And I'm very happy to work with the youth. Again, you're going to be the future of this country. You have a chance to change this world. Don't lose your idealism. And keep, if what I saw in the survey is right, you're going to have ideas that are somewhat different from the way we at the corporates think. And that should be a fresh new look that we'll build on. Okay, so that was the executive summary. We can all leave now. Except that I have a duty to tell you about CSR. CSR, each country has it. I'll use the word CSR, although first of all, the Europeans don't use it anymore. They use the word sustainability, which is a focus on the environment, on looking towards the future. But I'll still use CSR because it's a term that is in common use. CSR actually is something that sprang out of our own cultural traditions. We've had a biennial tradition for a long time. So that predates CSR. Every country has its own form of CSR. I mentioned to you that the Europeans are interested in sustainability. In this country, for example, our concern is what Tony mentioned. We translate CSR into citizenship, which means a broader sense of nationhood and helping our country. It's not just the sense of doing something for our shareholders. And it goes broader than our stakeholders, our suppliers, our communities. It means the society at large. So citizenship, I think, is an important part of our Philippine CSR. S, of course, is sustainability. And here's where you can make a real difference, because there are only a few companies and only a few corporations that really buy into sustainability. We're still trying to spread the word on sustainability. We're trying to tell them that if you look at it in terms of your return on investment, it is a good return on investment. part of it is, of course, technology. And then R, we said, is responsiveness. And that comes because, sad to say, our country is in the top 5 of disasters. That's not exactly a ranking we want. So when we talk about R, we talk about responsiveness, and there are several things that Tony and I were talking about. It's for example, reconstruction, recovery, rehabilitation. All of this leads to resiliency. So we have our own way of defining CSR, and we're hoping to push that through. Again, I would have to tell you that countries have a different way of looking at CSR. Companies have a different way of looking at CSR. I've been working with Intel for the last 8 years, and there are still companies that believe in CSV, Nestle, General Electric. But for example, Intel is looking at CSI, which is corporate social innovation. And what is very interesting, of course, it's Intel. Intel is a high-tech company. But what I think what's very interesting is that they're targeting innovation for the young. And I would have shown this on the board. But the point there is he recognizes the youth. And this is the other part about Filipino CSR. It's going to combine social responsibility with social entrepreneurship, with social innovation. Those are the things that we are interested in. And in fact, if you live in a developing country like ours, anything you do has social impact. Because anything that you do has an impact on social enterprise, and any social enterprise that you engage in will have an impact in society. Because there are many things that this country needs, and there are many things that the youth can provide. ISA's got this thing on salt lamps, which is good. I told you this thing about the high-tech thing on making sure that the deaf mute can hear. And there are other areas. The point I wanted to make is there's great promise in terms of the youth becoming very much socially engaged. We use the word CSR again because that's something that we want to look at. Now, I have 2 more things that I wanted to point out. I'm an educator, so I'm obviously biased, but I share with Tony this conviction that it's the schools and the students that will carry on social responsibility, to build it while you're in school, to nurture it while you're in school, so that you will not get discouraged when you get out there into the real world. The really sad part about this, when you graduate, you're going to be working for somebody who's half as smart as you, but earning twice your salary. So get used to it. But I think you have a good opportunity to, by the way, my own advice before I go into the thing about the schools, my own advice is work in the corporate world. You get a very great perspective on it. It's a very different environment from the school. You must spend at least 3, 4, 5 years. Also, if you are fortunate enough, you can build a network. You can be a banker in Globe or BDO. You can build a network among the people you know in banking, among the clients, and you might be able to find new ideas. So I do recommend that you go into the corporate world. I don't know if you'd want to stay there. That's entirely up to you. But if you can get to that point where you have enough know-how, you can build on your social entrepreneurship, then that's something important. So CSR is going to be built on the youth. They're going to define what we call CSR in the next 5 years, I hope. Otherwise, we would have failed. Tony and I would have failed in what we're doing. Every country will define CSR in its own way. And I'm hoping that the Filipino youth will have their own unique approach to it. In the same way, for example, that the Norwegian, the Northern European youths are very strong on the environment. Oh yeah, that's part 1. Part 2 is, it's up to the schools to do their work. And if you look at the back of your, that's the school ecosystem, that's the ecosystem for CSR that Tony's been working on, which is useful not just for schools, but for, it has general applicability. It's an interesting framework. But the point there is CSR doesn't automatically come out. You don't immediately believe in the 10 Commandments. You've got to practice it. You've got to sin a little bit to be able to be forgiven. So you have to build an ecosystem based on, starting with the schools, on how CSR will operate. And you can probably read it here. I won't go through the 12 different setups. But I think we're moving in that direction in terms of building an ecosystem. But we have to support the ecosystem by developing materials, and Tony and I are case method people, So we're asking for your help so that we can write cases, spread the word in a way. The way we do it is as academicians. It's going to be, tell us about your problems, tell us about your hurdles, tell us how you built this better mousetrap that's going to help humanity, or how you made things cleaner. These are the kinds of things that we want to hear about, and the more we hear about it from the youth, the more I think we're going to feel good about what we're doing. And in a way, that's where we get our psychic income, because the real income is not that good. But it's a labor of love, so that's how we want to work on it. Now, the other thing that's important, last thing before I think 8-5. Last thing I wanted to say is that the youth awards are three things. Okay, one, they're a symbol of recognition. Okay, you did something good. Two, it should be a role model for others. In fact, I would like to see many youth awardees, because then it becomes a symbol for somebody saying, yeah, I can do something like that. It's not such a big deal after all. It can be something as simple as a saltwater light, or something as complicated as teaching deaf mutes how to speak. And then I think the third thing is, which is maybe it's the pledge that we want to extract out of you, that each awardee should make it his social responsibility to nurture, mentor another potential awardee. That's the way you build this thing, one awardee at a time. And maybe, I don't know if it will be in our lifetime, but maybe in 10 years, we'll see a lot of social entrepreneurs who are socially responsible and who are able to practice a new version of CSR that academicians like myself would like to write about and talk about. And maybe somebody else will step on this podium 10 years from now and we'll talk about the new social responsibility. So thank you very much, and congratulations to all.